Hey guys, so today I felt like it was time for an updated top 2 in every category video. So I'm actually going to break this into 2 parts. This video is going to be my top 2 in every face category, so we'll do complexion products and cheek products, and then part 2 will be eye and lip. I love doing these videos because it's just a great snapshot into what are my top most used products in that given moment. I like to do these videos, I guess, about every 6 months. I've done 2 of them in the past. I think most people do their top 3 in every category, but because my collection is on the smaller side, I decided to narrow it down to top 2 just because I feel like that's a little bit more meaningful given the size of my collection. So let's get started with the primer category. I only own 2 primers anyway, but because these 2 primers survived my recent very cutthroat declutter, I think it just goes to show. As someone who doesn't really believe in primers all that much, I do still feel like these 2 are worth having in my collection. So the first one, this is my favorite primer that I've ever used. I still don't use it that often because I still just don't care to use primer that often, but when I do, this one really does make a difference. And few primers make a difference in my opinion. This is the e.l.f. Jelly Pop Dew Primer. Now unfortunately I think they've discontinued this, but I've heard it's basically the same thing as their Power Grip Primer, and people who liked this before also really like that one and say it does the same thing. So maybe go for that one if you do want this type of primer. But this is a gripping primer, and it just kind of helps lock your makeup in. And I also find that it has a smoothing quality to it, but not in like a dry, silicone-y, powdery sort of way. It's in more of like a plumping way, and it just looks very natural, and to me it really does something. So I definitely do like to reach for this when I want to make sure my makeup lasts a long time and just that my makeup looks good for a long time. And yeah, it's my go-to. It's one of the few primers that I feel like actually makes a difference. And then the other one I have is more of a luminous primer. It's the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. This is really a multi-purpose product. Like it can also be used as a highlighter. I categorize it as a primer. This is nice. Again, I often find myself forgetting to use it, but when I do use it, it is really pretty. I also don't necessarily feel like it was worth the money. Like in the future, I might just get the e.l.f. dupe if it ever comes back in stock. I don't feel like I use this type of thing often enough for it to be worth it in like an expensive version, you know? But those are my two primers, and they are my 2 favorite primers, I would say, out of all the primers that I've tried in recent years. Next, for the category of foundations, I bet you can guess these 2. I feel like you probably can if you know me well. So I have a drugstore favorite and a high-end favorite. I love when that happens. Actually, same thing happened with primers. But my drugstore favorite is, of course, the ColourPop Pretty Fresh foundation. Man, I wish I had tried this sooner. This is just the perfect kind of happy medium foundation. I feel like it's medium coverage. It has kind of a satin yet hydrated finish. It smooths out the skin and blurs it, but it doesn't look heavy or cakey on your skin. It's not super shiny. It covers things pretty well, but your skin still looks like skin. That's hard to find, especially in a drugstore foundation. I also just think because it's so flattering for so many reasons, I think a lot of people of different skin types would really like this formula as well. So I wear the shade Fair 30N, and it is so good. Undoubtedly, when I finish this, and I am like more than halfway through this bottle right now, I will repurchase it, like mark my words. Unless something comes along and beats this, but I just don't think it's possible because there's nothing wrong with this foundation. Like there's just nothing wrong with it. Like everything about it is just great. And honestly, the same thing goes for my other foundation in my top 2. This, for me to be willing to repurchase this, which I have already repurchased it by the way, that means it better be good and I better have 0 complaints about it if that's the amount of money that I'm spending on one item, because this is an expensive foundation. I recently got it for like $10 off, so that was a pretty good discount. Anyway, I'm blabbering on and on. This is the Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint SPF 40. This is such a great lightweight foundation. It is so thin. I mean, it really does come out like a watery serum. I'm almost out of this bottle, so unfortunately I can't really show you the texture, but it is a fluid, a liquid, but it has substance to it. Like it just feels like a very nourishing, hydrating fluid as you work it into your skin. And it just kind of creates this smooth, super skin-like film over your skin. And it does, I know film over your skin sounds bad, but it almost just becomes a part of your skin. It looks like just your skin with this beautiful like veil of hydration over it. It's so pretty. And it also is one of those foundations that like it just never looks bad. If for some reason, like let's say you have a little dry patch or something, like I do often, like lately I've been having dry patches up here. I don't know. My skin's been going through it, adjusting to like the weather here, but even if I have dry patches up there, I can kind of like just tap over them when I have this foundation on as I'm blending it in, and it just kind of smooths over them. It's really something special, and that's why I was willing to purchase it again after using it up, because it's just that good. And on top of that, I love that it has SPF 40 in it. It's just a nice added layer of protection over my sunscreen that I'm already wearing, but I just like having that in there. I feel like it kind of helps to fill in any gaps that I may have missed with my sunscreen, and it's just kind of like an extra layer of protection. So I can't get enough of this. I wear the shade ST3 Balos. So for the next category of powders, one of my favorite powders is no longer in my collection because I just used it up, but I'm still going to mention it because it's still one of my top favorite powders, and it's the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Pressed Powder. Once I use up another powder or two, I'm going to repurchase that one, but I just try not to have too many powders in my collection at once. That's one of my favorite powders. It's a great pressed powder, very finely milled, velvety, smooth on the skin. It's just fantastic, and that's my favorite pressed powder. My favorite loose powder is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder. Somehow this is glowy without being shimmery or sparkly. Like, there's no fine shimmer to this at all. I feel like the name Halo Glow is so appropriate for this because it just gives your skin this like lit from within glow that you can't detect in any sort of like shimmer or anything. So it just goes over your skin so smoothly. I feel like it helps my makeup wear longer and better throughout the day without ever getting crusty and weird. It's just such a good powder. I used to rave about the e.l.f. HD powder in Soft Luminance. I liked that one, but this one is better. That one, there was a teeny bit of like a very fine shimmer to it that you could see if you looked at it in the light. So to me, with this one, they've perfected that like undetectable glow powder, and it is worth the couple of extra dollars difference between that one and this one. So my two favorite concealers, again, we have one drugstore and one high-end. Is this going to be a theme throughout this video? I do feel like I used to be all drugstore all the time. I almost never bought high-end makeup, but over the past couple of years I have kind of dabbled a little bit more in high-end makeup just to see if maybe I was missing out. I don't know, because I just not really bought a whole lot of high-end for a long time. So I will say in some categories, especially like in complexion products, I do think often it's easier to find good high-end products. And I do have a video I did recently about products I'm willing to buy high-end versus products I like almost always buy from the drugstore, so I can link that below. But I do feel like with like complexion products, sometimes high-end products really do offer something special. And that is the case with the Kosas Revealer Concealer. This concealer I wear in the shade 1.5C. It's still the tiniest bit yellow on my skin tone, but it really, once I blend it in, it looks totally fine and normal. But this is just such a creamy, not too thick, but still very hydrating, medium coverage concealer. I love it. It's not as prone to creasing as other concealers either. Like a lot of concealers, including my other favorite, the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo. There you go, that's the other one. This one, if I apply it to my under eyes and then wait a few minutes before I powder my under eyes, I will notice that it has settled into my fine lines, and I have to kind of tap that in before I go over it with powder. Whereas with the Kosas one, I can go several minutes without setting it, and the creasing is very minimal. Now, if I were to just like never set this, I do think it would start to crease more and more throughout the day. I pretty much have to set my under eyes with powder. I don't know how people get away with not doing that, because if I don't set my under eyes, the concealer will be gone within like an hour. Like it just won't be there anymore. Like I need the powder to lock it in. I must have like oily under eyes or something. I don't know. With the Kosas one, the creasing is quite minimal. So that is why I love that so much. I just feel like minimal creasing is hard to find in most concealers. And on top of that, this always just looks so flattering on my under eyes. It gives good coverage, but it doesn't look like I'm wearing a thick layer of concealer. My other favorite is the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. This is a great drugstore option. I will be honest, I don't like it as much as the Kosas one in terms of formula, but this is one of those where it's like, for the price, it's good. And it is really good for the price. Like, I enjoy wearing this almost every day. I'm actually working on using this up right now. I know it looks separated in there, by the way, but it's looked like that ever since I bought it, and it still performs fine. I think that's just a quirk of this formula. For some reason, it's just prone to separating, but as long as it smells fine, it's fine in my book. So this one, the key with this concealer is to use a small amount. A little goes a long way. A lot of it will come out on the doe foot when you pull it out of there, so I just do one dot on one eye and one on the other. I don't dip it back in there, I just do like a little dot under each eye and then blend that out, and usually that is enough to get good coverage. But if you go and apply like a thick stripe on your under eye, it's going to look pretty heavy, it's going to settle into those fine lines, so just use a little bit with this and I think you'll be happy with the result. With the Kosas one though, you can like build it up if you want to, and it's not going to look heavy. So that's kind of the difference between the two, but I think you can get a great like high coverage look with the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo as well, and it comes in a really good shade range. Okay, the last like base category I have is setting sprays, and once again, I only own 2 setting sprays, but these are the 2 setting sprays that I felt like were good enough to keep in my collection, move with me cross country. Like, these are both very worth having to me. The first one is my #1 favorite for sure. I love this so much. This is the Makeup Revolution Fix and Glow Dewy Finish Setting Spray. It has like little fine shimmer particles in it, but they don't show up glittery on your face at all. Like, I don't notice any sparkle on my face when I use this, but I have it on today and it just gives the most beautiful, again, like lit from within glow. It's kind of like a step up from the e.l.f. Halo Glow. Like, if you want to just add like even more of like a dewy, healthy glow to your face, this is the next step up from this. But it's also not oily on your skin. I do feel like it also helps to lock your makeup into place, but it also doesn't feel tight or like hairspray on your face. So I love this setting spray so much. I love the cute rose gold packaging too. I just think it's really pretty on my vanity. So this is probably going to be a forever repurchase for me. And then the other setting spray I have, this is kind of like my special occasion setting spray. I wore this when I was like a bridesmaid at my friend's wedding, or when I did like a friend's makeup for her engagement photos, that kind of thing. Like, this is the setting spray I use for that, because I tend to opt for, if there's going to be a lot of like photos taken, I tend to opt for something that's not going to add too much glow. Like, I'm not really going for a dewy finish when there's going to be like some photos taken, or it's like just a long night or something. I want something that's gonna just like lock my makeup into place, and Urban Decay All Nighter is just the thing for that. This is one of those go-to holy grail products for so many people for a reason. Like, it has a reputation for being so good because it really does do what it's supposed to do. So that, I think, is also a good one that I like to have in my arsenal. All right, so the next category is bronzer and contour. I'm just gonna lump those all into one category. And actually both of my favorites are bronzers. I'm guessing that's because we are just now coming out of summer, and so in the summer that's usually when I'm in the mood to bronze, and I've definitely been reaching for both of these the most out of any of my bronzers. So one of these is a powder bronzer, and this is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer in Fair. This is a great bronzer for you if you have a fair skin tone and you find that a lot of other bronzers look harsh on you. This is such a good one. This is, again, what I have on today, and it's just the perfect undertone. It's not too dark, it's not gonna look orange. It's also such a great texture for powder. Like, it's just so smooth that it just evenly blends into your skin, and you don't have to like mess with it or worry about it looking patchy. That would probably have to be my #1 bronzer. But close behind that would be my LYS No Limits cream bronzer in the shade Motivate. This is a stick product. Both of these come in rose gold packaging. I guess I'm a sucker for rose gold, aren't I? Wow, I didn't even realize. I guess I am a millennial. This is such a good cream bronzer. It's so creamy, which is really what I'm looking for in a cream product. Like, I just want it to glide on my skin like butter. Like, I don't want it to be skippy. I don't want it to be uneven. I just want just like a smooth application. And that is exactly what this gives me. And while it is super creamy, I don't want that to make you think that once it's on your skin, it's going to like either slide around or kind of stay tacky feeling on your skin, because this is one of those cream products that does mostly dry down to a really nice satin matte finish. So it doesn't dry completely, like there is still some moisture left over on your skin, but it has almost completely set into place. And I just think that's a sign of a really good cream product formula. So I wear the shade Motivate in that, and it is my love. I love it so much. So next up, moving on to blush. Basically, what I want you to take away from this video is that red blush is such a flattering blush color, and I want everyone to try it. Even if you have fair skin, red blush, like a sheer red blush, is gorgeous. It is so flattering. I think it works on so many people. There are also so many different undertones of red, so don't just write it off as like, oh, you know, isn't that just gonna look like rosacea or something? No. There are like brick red blushes, there are more coral red blushes, there are really blue-based reds, but I promise you, like, the right red blush is going to look so beautiful on your skin. I'm just saying. So it goes without saying that my two current favorite blushes are both red. One is a cream and one is a powder. So let's start with the powder first, because this one I did discover first, and I cannot get enough of this. I haven't shut up about it since I first got it. This is the Kokie Soft Gradient Blush in the shade Bellissima. These are like $7, I believe. So you can see this is just almost like a brick rose kind of color. And it is a gradient, so it does fade into like this soft peach, and to me those two colors mixed together make the perfect kind of toasty reddish but still very like vibrant red. Like this works in the summer. I wore this all summer because I felt like it gave me a very nice sun-kissed look, but I love just like the mixture of those two shades together. Like look at that. Okay, it's kind of overlapping with the bronzer a little bit, but it just gives you the most gorgeous reddish peach color. And I just love the undertone of this blush. I don't think I've ever had a blush this color, so I just never knew how much I would like a blush this color, and it kind of opened me up to the world of red blushes. So very thankful to have tried this blush because it's really good. So naturally, I also have a cream blush favorite in that color because I do love a cream blush, and today I'm actually wearing both of these together. The cream blush I applied first, this is the Minori cream blush in the shade Scarlet. This is a new to me brand, and so far I love their products. But this blush, the formula, the color, like that's that blush. I would say this has a little bit more of like a juicy, almost pinkness to it, even though it is still very much a red. It's like a more corally, it's a corally red, but it's like a pinky corally red versus a orangey corally red. But really cute color, gives you such a vibrant look. I also feel like this is one of those cream blushes that if you're intimidated by most cream blushes, you will probably like this one because it's one of those that you can't really mess up. It's hard to go overboard. I mean, you definitely could go overboard with it, but if you accidentally pick up too much on your brush or your sponge, it's not going to be the end of the world. You're not going to look like a clown. It's very easy to kind of blend out, and it's very buildable, so you can always add more to intensify it, but it doesn't go on immediately super pigmented, which I really like. So they also have another one in a mauve color that I haven't tried, but I am thinking about picking that one up because it's just such a nice formula, and I love the like luxurious packaging. I love the color of their lids too. It's just such a warm, it just feels like such a cool girl brand to me, you know? So I'm really loving Minori, and especially that cream blush. So the final face category for today is highlighter, and I am sorry to say that my two favorite highlighters are both the same brand, and they're both discontinued as of now. I am still holding out hope that they're going to bring these back, but these are the ATHR Beauty powder highlighters. I looked through all my highlighters, and these are the two that jumped out at me as my top favorites of all of my highlighters. Like if all my highlighters disappeared and I could only keep two, I think it would be these two, because I know a lot of people are moving away from using highlighters on a daily basis, and especially powder highlighters, but I still love a powder highlighter. I don't think they have to look over the top or harsh. I think a lot of times powder highlighters can look very well blended and just very flattering, and both of these highlighters just are on another level. Like these just have the most stunning scattered glimmer effect to them that I've never seen before in a powder highlighter. Like, I truly have never seen highlighters this beautiful. I sometimes will just come in here and swatch these and just stare at them. That is how beautiful these are. They almost are like a creamy powder. Like, you can see I kind of can like squish this powder down, almost like a ColourPop Super Shock shadow, you know? They have like a cushiony sort of feel, but I would still say it's 100% a powder. It's just one of those powders that really feels like a cream. But like, look at that. So that's the shade Pure Diamond Dust, and then this one is the shade Pink Diamond Dust. I won't spend too long on these because I know it's like you can't even get these anymore anyway, but Pink Diamond Dust is that one right there, but that's like a peachy golden highlighter. So with these two, you have one that's more of like a cooler toned pinkish highlighter, and then this one is more of a warm golden toned highlighter. And I love both of these. I feel like those are typically the two types of highlighter colors that I'm picking between depending on the look that I'm doing. Like, I either want a more pinky toned highlighter or a more golden toned highlighter. So these are my two like most consistently reached for, and these are the two that like if I don't know what else I want to use that day, I'm using these because they just make me so happy to use, and I love the way they go on my cheeks too. They look so like sparkly, but not in a textured way. Like, it doesn't actually make my cheeks look more textured. It's like a very smooth sparkle. I love it so much. So ATHR, I'm begging you to please bring these back, please. I need them back. And if you made more shades, I would probably buy those too. Just saying. So that is my part one of my top two in every category. I was going to make this all one long video, and then about halfway through filming it, I decided I needed to split it up into two parts because otherwise it was going to be like an hour long. And I like doing long videos from time to time, but I feel like sometimes an hour can be a little much. So stay tuned for part two, which will be my eye and lip categories. But thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a thumbs up so that lets YouTube know that you liked it. Subscribe to my channel, and you can also check out another one of my videos that'll be on the end screen here in just a second. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I will talk to you again very soon in my next video. Bye!